weiß Bescheid. Entiendo.
Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast, the place where all Caribbean entrepreneurs come to learn all about building their business online and monetizing their platforms. You guys know you guys love this program. Folks, this episode that we did is a recording from the interview we did with Kalilah Reynolds, the big boss out of Jamaica. Anything you guys want to know with respects to the business and finance industry, Kalilah Reynolds from Taking Stock Jamaica, Money Moves, Money Mondays, that is the platform you guys need to go and check out, all right? So this interview is with Kalilah Reynolds. We spoke about monetizing your platforms, building a media powerhouse within your niche, and she dropped tons and tons of gems. So folks, without further ado, please enjoy this episode of Digipreneur FM with Kalilah Reynolds. Good morning, everybody. It feels so weird to say that because you guys know I'm a night owl. I like the nighttime flex. I like talking to you guys usually in the evening. But today we have a special guest. Today we have a special program. So we had to jump up early and get this thing done. And the guest that we have today, well, we're going to get into that. First and foremost, as you guys know, welcome to Digipreneur FM Live. We got to do a roll call. Is my Jamaican posse in the house today? Is the Trinis in the house? Is my Guyanese people in the house? Where are my Bajans? Are you tuning in from St. Kitts or Montserrat? Are you in the US? Are you in the UK? Are you in Canada? Please let me know in the comments where you guys are tuning in from today. Let yourself be known. Don't just come here and watch. Jump in the comments. Let us know that you guys are tuning in to this early morning edition of Digipreneur Live FM. All right. Today is all about building your platforms, building a media brand within your respective niche. This is something that we hear guys like Gary Vaynerchuck talk about all the time. Every single company that's in the digital space now needs to be a media company first, and then whatever they are in, that follows second. But they need to be a media company first. And building your respective platforms is something that people and companies have some of the biggest challenges with. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Building your platforms within your respective niche, and then talking about how to build them up and how to monetize them, how to leverage them to generate opportunities. So again, that's going to be all in the discussion today. So we got LinkedIn users in the house. We're live from the UK. We got Anna Marie John. Listen, Anna Marie's in the building. We got Devon. Let's go. Devon Fret is from Trinidad. Elroy, TNT in the building. Please, folks, let us know where you guys are going to be tuning in from today, all right? So, the guest that we have here tonight, we got to do it. We got to do it big, all right? We got to make sure that, we set the stage. We make sure we give her a very big Digipreneur FM welcome. So, without further ado, let's get the show started. You guys ready? Let me know in the chat if you guys are ready. Just drop some fire to let me know that you guys are ready. Folks, let's get the show started. Get ready, folks. Get ready. Get ready. Today, Digipreneur Live is pleased to welcome one of the most accomplished journalists and media personalities in the Caribbean. She became infamous for the Jamaican Duppy story back in 2010 with her coverage of the boy who had a ghost haunting him, and for the coverage of the security forces' forays into Tivoli Gardens in search of the world-renowned drug lord, Christopher Dudas Coke. She is now the host of the popular show, Taking Stock, that aims to break down financial education and make it easier for folks like you, like me, to understand. Her segments, Money Mondays and Money Moves, are growing wildly popular. And quite frankly, when it comes to business and finance in the Caribbean, you simply need to subscribe to her YouTube channel to understand the landscape. She is an author, a podcaster, a blogger, a wife, and a mother of three. And most importantly, encourages everybody to let's get this money. Digipreneur FM, please welcome to the stage, Miss Kalilah Reynolds.
Hey, I want you to do all my intros ever, forever and ever. Amen. Please. That intro was so hype. I love it. The music alone, like, wow. Like, who's he talking about? Who's coming up? Oh, it's me?
Kalilah, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm really happy to be here. I know you've wanted me to come on your show for a while, but the evening thing is really tough for me because I have the kids and it's bedtime and they're very small, so it's hard for me to do evenings. So I'm glad that you're able to facilitate me this morning.
Don't worry. We were going to make this thing happen regardless of what time it had to happen. It was going to happen. You
pull for Duppy story.
You know what the crazy thing about that is, right? When I was the crazy thing about that is when I was looking into it, I remember that story while I was in Canada. I remember seeing that story while I was in Canada, and I remember just being like, "Wow, this is insane." Even the Christopher Dudas story, I remember these stories. So just to be in the position now to be able to talk to you, and again, I've seen your work even before I knew who you were. Just knowing that I've seen your work years ago. And again, now you're seeing the evolution of the Kalilah Reynolds brand it's just amazing. And there's somebody that is in the chat today who actually reintroduced me to your platform, which is, Kevin Valley. Back in, what you probably don't know is, I believe it was either the end of 2018 or early 2019, Kevin was just talking about, he's like, hey, you see this girl, Kalilah Reynolds? Her business show, that is the show. When I think of like how,
Big up
business creators need to be, this is the gold standard.
I met Kevin at a conference here in Jamaica last year. I don't remember. When was it, Kevin? I see he's in the comments. Last year or it might have been 2019. Yeah, definitely pre-pandemic times. So
right.
2019, I met him at a conference here. And yeah, he did know who I was. He was like, yeah, Kalilah. Oh my God. It was really cool. And it's been really cool to connect with him too, because I've actually interviewed him on a couple of my shows since.
Yes. And again, it's just even when you guys did the interview, I was joking with him. I'm like, yo, it's crazy to see everybody's brands just rise, because it wasn't too long ago you were saying, yo, you're a big fan of Kalilah Reynolds. You're a fan of her platform. You're a fan of, how she creates, how she's built together this brand. And that was a gold standard. So now for your brand to be in a position where you're big enough to even get to be on a show, being featured by Kalilah Reynolds, speaks a lot. Heck, it's even a pleasure of mine to even be able to have you as a guest on my show, right? So again, it's just amazing how everything kind of works out.
Creators link up, right?
Correct. And then on top of that, it's not just it's creators linking up, but from all over the region because yes, you live in Jamaica, but you're originally from Belize.
That's right.
I live in Trinidad, but I spent my entire life in Canada. I've only been here a few years now, right? So again, it's great to see how everything has come together. So
So
thank you.
before we start, Karen,
Talk
I
to
just
me.
want to show people where we are because you
Talk
might
to
be
me.
hearing an echo in the room, and that's because this is the start of a new chapter for Kalilah Reynolds Media. So we just got the keys to our studio space last week. Just got Wi-Fi installed here. Drop bomb for that. Yes,
Boom,
just got
boom,
Wi-Fi
boom,
installed.
Kalilah!
I love it. The Wi-Fi was installed literally yesterday, so the room is empty. So if you're hearing an echo, that's why. So I've tried my best to catch up a blanket to absorb some of the sound. So let me show you guys what it looks like. So keep
This
in
is
mind
this is the
this
behind the scenes, so you guys know it's real.
this is what the start of a media empire looks like. Remember I said it, right? So the room is empty. This is my blanket catched up. From my house. There's my ring light, piece of the thing missing at the top. I have my microphone, my drink. There you are.
This
And
is
then see the
great,
rest of the
man.
room is completely empty. Let me show you the back. So right here, this is like a panel that I bought on a room divider I bought on Amazon,
Right.
and I catch up the blanket on it to try at least get some of the room echo out. So that's what we're working with today. But
No.
in a couple of weeks, the space will be transformed. I'm gonna have my set over there for taking stock. Gonna have another set right behind me for Money Mondays. Gonna have a green screen over there. My desk is
Wow.
coming in this afternoon. So
Wow.
so yeah, you're the first
No.
one to bless the studio. It's the first interview I'm doing in it.
Yes, I love it. And this is, you know what, this is perfect because I mean, this is a conversation that there's not too many people I can have this particular conversation with because we have a lot of creators, but we don't have many people that are building a media powerhouse within a niche and then building all of the assets that you have. And then you have the traditional background. You have the background in traditional media as well. And then you've migrated into digital. And then you have merged how those platforms are working within your brand. So again, those are things that we have to dive into today because there's a lot of gold, there's a lot of gems, and people need to see how everything kind of works together. But the greater goal is to build your brand, but also build the financial and business space. So let's
Yeah.
get into it, Kalilah. So first things first, just a bit of background. Just let us know, how did you get into the media industry?
All right. So when I was probably 5 years old, I decided that I wanted to be a writer as my career. I love writing stories. I had little children's books that I would make and staple together and color them. And I was a media entrepreneur from then because I had the idea to make these books at 5, 6 years old and sell them to my friends. So, so yeah, I had that entrepreneurial mindset from them.
Right.
But many people told me living in Belize, right? They're like, you'll never make any money as a writer. That's not a career that you can really survive off of, especially in Belize.
Right.
And so as I grew older, especially around high school, I started thinking, well, how can I make money as a writer?
Right.
What can I do that will, give me an income as a writer? And I also had another interest, which was politics, current affairs, social issues. I was deeply interested in those, raised in a trade union family, right?
Right.
So nursery rhymes were union songs. So
Right.
I had that interest in social issues and I liked to write. So I'm like, okay, how can I merge these two? ding, 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 journalist. I'm
Right.
gonna be a journalist.
Right.
And so that's where that idea came from. So I went to school, studied journalism, got the degree, went back to Belize, started working in the industry, worked on morning radio, did news, and it was so I wasn't focused on business just
Right.
yet. It was much more general and much more talking to everybody from the garbage man on the street to the
Right.
prime minister,
Right.
about a range of topics. And I love the industry, like you mentioned in the intro. They covered Duppy story, covered Tivoli incursion. I have done quite a diverse range of stories
Right.
throughout my career. And then probably about 7 years ago, even at the start of my career, I took a keen interest in economics because I see where, there are several things going on in the country. The country was facing a severe debt situation, just like Jamaica had been. And so, following what was happening with the debt situation and how the government was seeking to restructure the debt, those were things that really took me into economics. And I started taking a keen interest in those types of stories.
Right.
Other thing is, I've always been very good at math. So, everybody else, whenever they hear numbers, literally every other journalist would say, nope,
I'm out.
don't want to do that
I'm
story.
out.
I'm confused. I'm out. Matter of fact, most journalists I know go into journalism because they don't like math.
Oh wow! Until they have
one
to
of
cover the
one of the
finances.
reasons people become journalists because they like to write, but they don't like
Right.
the math side. A lot of people, that's how your brain works. You either left
Right.
brain or your right brain, right?
Right.
And I think which one is the right brain? The left brain is creative,
Left
I
brain
think,
is
and the right is
creative. Yes.
analytical. So most people shy away, most people in my industry shy away from stories on economics, on business, and that type of thing. But it really started intriguing me from I was covering it in Belize and then coming here to Jamaica. And those stories kind of fell in my lap for the same reason. Nobody else wanted to do them. Budget
Right.
time, you see that big, thick yellow book? It's
Right.
like it's like twice the size of a phone book,
Right.
literally. That's the budget. And you need to read, and it's all numbers. And for me, that was a gold mine of information. I love analyzing numbers
Right.
and coming up with stories. So translating those numbers into meaningful stories that affect people's lives, because that's what a budget is. It's a spending plan for an entire country for an entire year.
Right.
So there's millions of not millions, but dozens of stories that can come out of that big book that no other journalist wants to touch.
Right.
And so I started gaining a reputation in my newsroom for doing those types of stories. And then eventually I started taking an interest in the business side of things too, given that the Jamaica Stock Exchange was booming. I started investing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and I'm like, looking for information, can't find any information. And so I said, well, there clearly is a need for this, so why not create it? I'm a
Right.
journalist. Let me start doing it.
Right. Listen,
So that's how I started.
that's no that's beautiful. And I mean, one of the things that people struggle with is niching down. People don't like to typically niche down because they think that if they niche down, then they're losing out on opportunities. So we have most people that come out to be a generalist. What are some tips that you can give people if they want to niche down as a content creator? What are some tips that you can give some people when they're thinking about niching down in a particular topic?
Well, you can test the waters first and see what type of interest there is for the content that you want to provide. You need to find your community for sure. So if you are concerned that you're not going to get anybody who will watch, well, maybe you are posting at the wrong place or at the wrong time or to the wrong people. So
Right.
you need to definitely find who are those people who are interested in the niche that you want to pursue and target them. There's so many ways to target online now that you have all these tools at your disposal. And that's the beauty of social media, which is so different from traditional and mass media, where I have my background.
Right.
Where mass media, you're on a radio station, it literally is everybody. There's no way to target specific people.
Right.
But when you're on social media, you can definitely target people who are interested in what you're interested in. So when I was starting, what I would do is, first of all, I would follow all the financial pages on IG.
Right.
So all the brokerage firms, I would follow Proven, I follow Barita, follow Jamaica Stock Exchange, follow all other types of creators who were like me, although there weren't really many, there are a lot more
Right.
now. So follow people who are like me. And then, so what I would do on those pages, I would comment, like answer people's questions, or I'd comment a lot. So if they post something about some IPO,
Right.
I would comment like under almost everybody who would post something under the post, would
Right.
comment on the post. I would reply to each of their comments. So if there's like 15 comments under that post, I would reply to all of them and then say, by the way, check out my page,
Right.
and that's how
Right.
I started
That's
started
brilliant.
finding that community of people who would be interested in my content. So
Right.
getting their fan base to come over to my side. So I did that quite a bit in the early days.
That is, I feel like I need to, halt my interview and take some notes too, because no, that is a really good piece of advice. So, Kalilah, so you've had the good fortunes of getting into the media industry from as far back as college. Has your
Yeah.
traditional media
Even before
background?
college, from high school.
Well, look at that. Great. Has the traditional media background helped prepare you to shift into digital media, or were there things you needed to unlearn from traditional media to excel digitally?
Oh, so the answer, those are two different questions, and the answer to both of them is yes. So traditional media skills definitely have helped me in transitioning to digital media.
Right.
So being able to craft a story, to formulate a story, knowing where to get information, knowing who to talk to,
Right.
knowing how to talk to them, practicing interviewing skills, for example. Those
Right.
are all things that would have come with my experience from traditional media. But at the same time, I have always been one for simplicity. Even in my stories in traditional media, I hate when journalists regurgitate press releases and they use the exact same word, and then there's a paragraph in there that they didn't quite understand, and rather than going the extra mile to try to understand it and explain it to the audience, they'll be
Right.
like, I'm just gonna quote the press release and put
So they
back
would
the
say that? They
same
would say it
mess.
out loud?
No, they're not going to say that
Oh, okay. Just
clearly. But
checking.
when
Just
you read
checking.
the story, obviously
Right.
that's what they did. They
Right.
just put that in quotation marks because they didn't understand it. They couldn't bother understand it. So they're just going to put that in quotation marks, slap that
Okay.
in the
Right.
story. And then
Gotcha.
nobody still understands. And that just defeats the entire purpose of communication. And so I have always, taken a senior role in newsrooms that I've worked in and tried to train some of the young journalists coming up in how to write a story. And my message has always been to give people stuff that they can understand. And that's been the shortcoming in business news I've found. So when I was looking for information as a new investor, I didn't understand these stories that were coming out. They're talking
Right.
about
Right.
the
Right.
points and the points, something went up and something more points, and then the or some other jargon that they use. It's a whole bunch of jargon
Right.
in the industry. And I was just completely lost. I'm like, well, if
Right.
I'm lost, and I think I'm smarter than the average bear,
Right.
two college degrees,
Right.
20 years journalist. If I don't understand them, normal people can't
Can't
understand
understand
this.
it.
Regular Joe on the street definitely is not understanding.
Right.
And so I took the approach that I needed to break things down, make it simple. And that's why our motto is making business and finance easy to understand. So having to, and I wouldn't even say unlearn that traditional media approach, because I never really took that approach to begin with. I always went the extra mile to try to break it down.
Right.
But for people who are in that space, they need to realize that and the news talker. You ever hear people put on this phony accent for the news? This phony,
Yes.
and now it is time for the news, and today blah 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 blah. It's so stuffy, and that's not how it definitely doesn't work on social media. I don't think it works on traditional media either, but even more so on social media. You've got to be relatable, you've got to be yourself, you've got to use everyday language, and that is what will attract the audience.
Yes, I agree. And you know what? It's a perfect segue into my next question, because it's you see the phony accent. I feel like it doesn't matter what island you go to. If you're listening
Yes.
to Jamaican news, Trini news, Bayesian news, everybody, and this, da
There's
da
a
da da
news
da.
voice.
There's
Yeah.
that voice, right? So the content is different, but everybody sounds the same. Their shirt and tie, they're
Oh,
buttoned all the way up. It's like a cookie cutter approach to
yeah.
media. So
I
how,
hate it. I've always hated it.
uh, in
Always
being in
hated
that,
it.
environment and conditioning for so long, you know, how did you get the confidence to break out the mold to do Kalilah Reynolds Media? Because now you're dancing, it's money talk. It's a whole different vibe. Like even when I was watching over the Duppy story, the Kalilah from then is not the same person now. And if you were to do that story now, it would sound completely different. So what kind of
Well, it's a
gave you that
different platform
confidence?
too. It's a
Well,
different platform too. So
ah,
my followers on social media are different from, like I said, for traditional media, it's everybody. You
right.
know, it's a very wide net. Social media, you have a very, when I look at my insights, you see 25 to 45 is my core. And
Mhm.
so that's in my age bracket. I know what people that age relate to, so I can do stuff for that. Somebody older might not appreciate the dancing in the show. You understand?
Right.
But so on traditional media, they might frown upon that. Even, they've had issues with my hair. They've had issues with so many things during my
Ah,
career. But that's why I'm so happy that I'm able to just do my own thing now. I
right.
think I've been able to get away with a lot because I'm not Jamaican. So they probably just pass it off as, oh, she's not Jamaican, so she don't really understand the thing.
Right, right, right.
So she get a blind. How she song so? How's her accent like that? Oh, it's because she's not Jamaican, or And so I think I've been able to get away with a few things that a Jamaican broadcaster might not be able to.
Yeah, and it's rough because I mean, as you say that, as a Belizean in Jamaica, and they're talking about your accent, I've gotten the exact same thing here in Trinidad. When well, first things first, I was a blogger first, so I wasn't even putting myself out there on video. But whenever I would do interviews, people would jump out of me and be like, "Who is this freshwater Yankee? He went to Toronto for a 2 months or 2 weeks." And where is he coming with this accent, right? And not realizing that, well, 29 years of my life is
Yeah,
Toronto, you
exactly,
know?
exactly.
So having to, deal with that in a new country was something that I didn't really understand why, but it's something that I had to kind of work through because at the end of the day, you're educating. So there has to be a level of trust that people place into you. And that was definitely something that I had to kind of work through. Did you have to work through building that trust coming from Belize over to Jamaica?
Absolutely. Even getting your foot in the door. Because when I came here, I knew nobody. I came here literally, I came here for UE to
Right,
do my master's at UE, and I knew no, but I didn't even have a place to live.
right,
I arrived in Jamaica, didn't have a place to live, had to find somewhere like within a couple of days, and didn't know anyone. But what I did was the first thing I did in trying to break into the industry was do my research on, okay, what is available, what are the major stations that are here, TV,
right,
radio, print. Make a list of them, went to the phone book, looked up the numbers, looked up the addresses, made a demo video of myself,
right,
compiled from stuff that I did in Belize, and got completely dressed up, full makeup, full outfit, everything.
right,
Went to each of these places to drop off the resume, asked to speak to the production manager or news manager, whoever it was, to deliver it in person. Because I'm like, okay, I have a little face here, I can use this.
right.
Maybe if they see me, because it's really hard to get hired just by mass email.
Right,
And back then, it wasn't even as popular to the email. I suppose that the hard copies were more popular, but it's gonna get ignored.
of
But if you
course.
have a beautiful woman to deliver the message, I mean,
That can help.
that can help. And that's how I got my first job, which was actually an entertainment program. I was working for RETV, and I got
Wow.
my second job, which was for Hype TV, and then from there once you get your foot in the door, it's a whole lot
That's
easier
it.
because you're in the industry. You start meeting other people in the industry who can introduce you to other people that you need to know. And
Right.
so from there, just getting the foot in the door was the hardest part.
Right. Beautiful. So let's talk digital assets, right? So when somebody decides, all right, I'm going to be niching down in this particular space, what are the digital assets that they need to have to begin building their brand? So when we talk about, your website, the newsletter, the YouTube channel, what are some of the assets that people that are just getting started out, what are some of the assets that people should look to start building?
I think you should start with one first before you even get to the website, newsletter, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just build focus on your one platform first and start building that. And then once that starts gaining traction, then you can start adding things. Because guess what? All these things take time. It may seem easy to just repurpose the content. Oh, I'm just going to rip the audio from the YouTube and put it on a podcast. And then I'm
Right.
just going to take the transcript and put it on my website or in a newsletter. But all of these things
Right.
take time. So even if it's taking an hour a day to do each of these things,
Right.
that's like the time adds up, especially if you're doing it as a side hustle, which is how I started.
Right.
And so I think it's better to just focus on doing one very well first, build and grow that platform, and then you can start getting into the other things. So website is one that I definitely recommend, is really important. It can serve as a hub for everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Building your email mailing list, super important, because what if you, and I saw this happen to somebody very recently, got locked out of I think they got banned from Facebook, and Facebook owns Instagram. So they got banned from both Facebook and Instagram. So
Yeah.
how do you reach your 50,000 followers if you're
And they have no
suddenly one
platform.
day locked out of Facebook and Instagram and you have no platform? So
Right.
that's why you need to really build up your email list so that you can still contact those people and say, hey, I've started a new account, follow me over here. At least they know where to reach you then. So the email
Right.
list is a good idea to have
Right.
to encourage people to subscribe. And you want to have something that keeps them opening your emails. So that takes time as well. But even if you commit to a once a month, the key, I think, is to be consistent about the different platforms that you decide to do.
Right.
So website, email list are two super important things that can support whatever platform that you're building on. And I think those are probably my top two outside of the actual social media platform that you're on.
Nah, that's beautiful. And the most important thing about those two things, as you said, you own your website, you own your email list. These are
Right.
things that you're building your brand, you're building these assets, but you own the data. So nobody's gonna come and
Right.
kick you off of these platforms. And once you own that data, if something does happen to your social media, you guys can reach back out and still connect to your people because it's happening at a high rate.
Trust me.
I feel like in 2021, even if you're not getting banned, there is a lot of censorship happening. So you're posting something and you don't even know why you're getting this message that this random post has violated community rules and you're like, "What? I'm in Speedos. How did I violate the rule?" You
Karen
just
Rose and Speedos.
no. 2022 when I get the summer body.
Yeah, we know you prefer the hoodie.
Yo, I tell you, and everybody's like, but you're from Canada. Don't you enjoy the cold? Listen, I hate the cold, but it's also so hot that I need a balance of AC and a long sleeve hoodie, and I'm good. I'm good right there.
That's like when you have on the AC and you're under the blanket, but you still need to push out the 1 foot.
Correct. It balance.
Once
So
soon as you push out the 1 foot, it's perfect.
it's perfect temperature, and you don't need to understand it. It just works. Okay. So when you were building out your assets, now there's I guess there's confusion with when people want to start. People think that you need a team. If you're going to be building out all these assets, you need to be outsourcing it. You need a team. Then you have some people who are like, well, you know what? You're the chief. You're the chief everything. You're doing everything for yourself. When you're building out these assets, did you start off building out your assets as a solo act, or did you have a team from out of the gate?
No, I definitely started out by myself. This was a one woman shop until, let me tell you, until when? Until I had my son. So my son is now 18 months old. I launched
Right.
Taking Stock when I was 6 months pregnant with him. Mad
Wow.
woman, right?
Right.
And I had my son. I had already planned to take some time off. We had pre-recorded some content. But even so, I had my son, and the week he was due was the week of the biggest IPO like ever in Jamaica, which was Trans Jamaican Highway, right?
Right.
And I'm like, I knew that this particular episode of Taking Stock would do very well and bring me a whole lot of new subscribers.
Right.
So I'm like, please let me just finish the interview. Please don't barn yet. Please don't barn yet. Let me finish the interview. Did the interview with the finance minister, Nigel Clark, on Friday. My son born Sunday. Taking Stock still
Wow.
came out Monday as scheduled.
Wow.
And that's because I had my laptop with me at the hospital.
Wow. Wow.
And yo, it was crazy. It
Right.
was a lot going on. So I have this newborn now, and I'm still having to keep up with all of this work as basically a solo act. At that time, I did have one person who
Right.
was the producer for the show. And so it's just me and her trying to do everything, produce the show, get all the content out, do promotion for the show, deal with sponsors, deal with contracts, everything. And so my husband is like, babe, you're working too hard. You need to get some help.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, fine. I'll get an assistant.
Right.
And I made a list of all things I want the assistant to do. And I realized that it's really like 7 people I need to hire.
Right.
But I put out the call for an assistant, and I got for a part-time assistant, by the way.
Right.
And I got some really, really great applicants, like people with master's degrees in communications. I'm like, hold on,
Wow.
I want to hire all of you because
Right.
there are so many people who are great. So what I ended up doing was hiring about 6 people, all on a freelance basis, who became my writing team, my core
Right.
writing and research team, so that
Right.
at least for Money Mondays JA, I didn't have to do all of that myself. So I haven't written Money Mondays myself since my son was born. And
Right.
people wouldn't even know because I trained them to write like me and sound like me. And
Oh
they have
wow.
done a really good job with that. So that's how I started building my team.
Right.
So it started from there, and then eventually I'm like, okay, I can bring on, as we started making more money to be able to
Right.
pay these
Correct.
people,
Correct.
like, okay, I can bring on somebody to do this and bring on somebody to do that. And last year we hired a full-time video editor. At first I was doing the editing at first, and then I went to a freelancer. Then I moved to from freelance to part-time, and then from part-time to full-time as the money starts coming in. So
Right.
you can absolutely start by yourself, and then as you build and grow, you find that you have room to hire a team. It can be one by one, and as long as you're able to pay them
Right.
sustainably, the money is coming in. And yeah, that's how that works. I mean, I don't think anybody starts unless you have some big fairy godmother who gives you a couple $1 million to start your business. And I don't even think that's the right way to build a business personally, because if you're doing somebody else's money, I don't think you're as invested as if you are
Right.
building from scratch. That's just my opinion. I
Right.
mean, there are different ways to start a business, but when you start from scratch and you really bootstrap that bad boy,
It's a
and you
different.
have to be responsible for people's lives and livelihoods and their kids going to school, I mean, that put things in perspective for you that this cannot fail, you know?
And then
I
there's
remember
then
when
there's go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
my first employee, my producer, came to me and she asked me to write a letter so she could get a car loan. I was like,
Right. Can I do that?
okay, that means that I definitely have to pay you every month because there's
Mm,
no room for the money didn't come on time or whatever. Because
right.
no, if I don't pay her, then she can't pay her car loan. You
Right.
understand?
Right.
So yeah, it gets real very quickly.
Then there's the flip side to that where, now that you were the one that was doing everything within the business, the writing, the producing, the editing of everything. Now that you're bringing on people, you have an idea as to how things should look because you have that skill set. You've been doing it for so long. So even when you do hire better people than you're not lost in the conversation when they're saying, hey, Kalilah, we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. You have an
Yeah.
idea as to how it should kind of work.
Yeah, absolutely. I know my business from top to bottom. Every part of my business, I know how to deal with the sound, the lighting. I'm like, no, you need a backlight over there. And they're
Right.
looking at me like, what you know about lighting? Because I did it all myself for so long.
Right.
But it also, as a boss, it can be a little bit tricky because I have very high expectations of them. And I
Right.
know exactly how much time a particular task is supposed to take. So
Right.
when I just hired my editor, right, she trying to make the case that this particular thing takes 5 hours to edit. I'm like, I
No
used to edit
partner.
that myself. I know it doesn't take more than an hour.
Right.
So why am I getting this? Why am I getting this late?
Right.
Because I know exactly how long it takes, and you're a better editor than me because you
Right.
were trained in editing.
Right.
I just learned the thing as I went along. So this shouldn't take so long. And then
Right.
I tend to have those expectations of my team. I also realize that when I'm bringing in new people, yeah, they have to be trained, but I have had to temper some of my expectations because I expect people to do things as quickly and as well as I would do it.
Right.
Otherwise, why am I paying you?
Correct.
And then I realize, okay,
That's something that you
what
got to
takes
change.
me an hour, may take this other person, this new person, 3 4 hours to do.
Right.
So until they start really getting the hang of it and have the experience, because I have over 20 years experience.
Right.
When I was just starting, it didn't take me an hour to write a story. It would take me
Right.
all day to write a story. Now
Right.
I can do that story in 45 minutes. But if I'm hiring somebody who's just starting, I have to realize that, okay, it's going to take them a lot longer than it will take me. So these are things that
Right.
I'm learning as a new boss and a new entrepreneur too.
And these are invaluable lessons too. So, Kalilah, let's switch up because I wanna talk a little money with you, right? So, when I mean, we're talking about all of these assets, right? Now, when creating your brand and building out the platforms, one of the reasons that people, don't actually start is because they don't understand how to leverage the platforms to generate opportunities for them or how to monetize them. Can you give us some practical examples of how you are able to monetize different platforms? Like how could you monetize a website or an email list or social media? What are some examples that
Right.
you can monetize on these platforms?
So the easiest way is probably sponsorships, and that's how my company makes probably about 70% of our revenue right now. So
Right.
we get advertising and sponsorships, and that comes from being in traditional media. That's how traditional media make money too, advertising and sponsorships. So traditional media have these large audiences. You're broadcasting to 1 million people, but you're not selling anything directly to those 1 million people. So how do you make money? Well, you
Right.
make money by charging people who want to reach your audience, right?
Right.
So what you do is that you reach out to brands who may align with whatever it is that you're trying to say. So right now, my 3-year-old daughter has a platform, the Reese Baby Genius,
Mhm.
and I reached out. So she has less than 2,000 followers now,
Mhm.
and she's already monetized. She's already paying her
Wow.
college fund
Wow.
from a sponsor that was interested in her channel, and they
Right.
didn't just happen to see her channel at random. I sent them videos of her content and said, would you be interested in this? And of course, not the first person that I sent it to said yes.
Right.
I got many ignored and unreplied
Right.
emails, but it just takes one to be the first one to be interested, and then others will start reaching out. So whatever aligns with what you are, the type of content that you are producing. So for her, being a child, the brands that worked with that was massive distributors. They distribute Yogi Kids yogurt was
Right.
one of the things that they have. So that aligns well with her audience. For
Right.
my audience, I talk a lot about business and finance. So I have a lot of financial institutions that partner with me that sponsor programs on my show. So we have sponsorship of the main shows. I have
Right.
3 main shows: Taking Stock, Money Mondays, Money Moves. Those are all sponsored.
Right.
And then I also do what I call special features, which are paid promotional videos and interviews, because I started getting a lot of requests
Of course.
from people who want to come on my show to promote whatever. I'm
Right.
like, okay, my show is not a marketing show. My show is, I'm going to decide who comes on my show based on pure journalism interest. So if this
Right.
is going to be of interest to my audience, then sure, you can come on. But if you just want to come on to sell something, then I'm going to sell you a different package,
Right.
which is a sponsorship package,
Right.
a special feature package where you can come on and do that, not as part of one of my regular shows, but as a special feature. And I charge a whole lot more to do that than I do for, to be on, let's say you have a sponsor for Digipreneur FM,
Right.
you can do a different show, call it a special feature, and charge a completely different rate because it's a completely promotional or marketing event. So we get quite a bit of revenue from that too. I do limit it to no more than one of those special features per week, because I
Right.
don't want to inundate my followers with all
Right.
this paid content.
Right.
So there's that. Then you can sell to people directly. I haven't really done much of this model just yet. I do have some merchandise, t-shirts and face masks, but it's a very tiny fraction of our income. I
Right.
do want to create more products for people. And when I say products, I mean financial. So I'm working on a book that I want, and financial planner, to release probably around Christmas time. So that could bring in quite a significant chunk of revenue because that's been
Right.
in demand. And then you have like the Patreon model where you can charge people for premium content. You could make your content available, say, a day early, and subscribers get that. And if it's something that's time sensitive, like taking stock is often time sensitive,
Yeah.
and somebody having the information a day before other people or a day before competitors could make a world of a difference in the amount of money that they're able to make in investing, then that's valuable to them. So we can do that on Patreon, which is another thing that I have in the works. And then, of course, there is the direct monetization from YouTube and your podcast and so on, which is probably like 1.5% of our total revenue. Is very, very, very small. So there's a direct monetization, sponsorships, special features, paid features, merchandise, so selling something to people. And I just started reading that book you had recommended, Content Inc. And I realized, oh, this is exactly what I've been doing. There's a name for it. That's so
Right.
cool.
Right.
So I've built an audience and now trying to figure out, okay, what can I sell to these people directly?
And then when you add in affiliate marketing, so that's another revenue stream because just like you said, the book you recommended, I usually anytime I am showcasing books that I'm reading, the tools that I'm using, I always usually have affiliate links in my link in bio or in my captions. That way, if you want to purchase the things that I'm talking about, I make a commission off of that as well. And those affiliate links, that affiliate commission comes in handy when you add in all of the different streams that Kalilah just mentioned. It makes up that entire brand and it just adds to the pot.
I haven't actually done much with affiliate links because the brands that I work with, they haven't really caught up with the technology yet. I did propose it to them. So I'm like, if I could get $1 for everybody who opened
Yeah,
an investment account with you because of me, how
right.
much money would I have? But they don't have a way to track it just yet. Hopefully we can start working on that soon. And then another income stream I forgot to mention was people will pay you to come places to host events
Yes.
or to make appearances at events. And I actually don't even count that as part of my business, the
Wow.
Kalilah Reynolds media
Right.
income. I count that as my personal income because people want to see me. So that
Right,
goes into
right,
my,
right.
my personal account, not the business account.
Right.
But if you're still at the sole trader stage where your business is you, then that definitely should count that as part of the income that you earn from being an influencer and content creator.
That is $1 million advice right there. And that is a perfect segue into as much as so you have these platforms, you're monetizing. How do you ensure that when you distribute content to social media and then you also have your traditional media, how do you ensure that one isn't cannibalizing the other?
What do you mean?
So let's just say because I had a situation like this for me, right? Where I create content for my own platforms. Brands would reach out, or media houses would reach out and say, you know what, we want your content on our platforms. However, when I would have to work with them, I would have to work on their schedule in terms of on their release schedule. But when the content is now time sensitive, I don't want to wait 2 weeks before my before my content gets released. So how do you, when you're balancing radio, print, TV, and your digital platforms, how do you kind of decide, what content do you give to, say, traditional media platforms that have a release schedule, and what content do you keep to yourself to release on your platforms?
Okay, so content sharing is another revenue method that we've recently added. So there's so many different revenue streams. So we have a
That's
partnership with
great.
the Observer newspaper, and we have a partnership with Cool 97 FM. So Observer publishes our content five times a week, and Cool publishes one of our programs, which is Money Mondays JA. So it's interesting that you mentioned this, because the show is called Money Mondays
Right.
JA, right?
Right.
So it kind of has to come out on a Monday.
Right.
And
Right.
that poses a challenge, because it comes on in the evening at 7 p.m. is when we post Money Mondays, but they wanted something from morning. So all I did was change the name. I said, all right, let's get this money with Kalilah Reynolds on Cool 97 FM.
Right.
Just had to change the name for that particular platform. How I used to do it for Taking Stock, because Taking Stock started out on both radio and YouTube. Taking Stock was born when I was still working at Nationwide News Network, which is a
Right.
radio station here in Jamaica. And what we would do is just have the premiere simultaneously.
Right.
So it was a pre-recorded show, and it would premiere both on YouTube and on Nationwide at the same time, so that the content isn't dated when it airs. So I haven't had that problem yet.
Right.
And I've found that with the partnerships that I do have, they've been able to publish in a timely manner. So, and they
okay.
understand that my content a lot of it is time sensitive, especially Taking Stock. If
Right.
it's not aired in the week that it's produced, it don't make sense
Loses
to me.
value. Right. What about exclusive content? Have you dealt with situations where media partners wanted exclusive content from you, and if they did, how do you deal with that?
Well, it can be exclusive to to traditional media. So, for example, the Observer partnership, they are my exclusive print partner.
Okay.
So I will not sell that content to any other newspaper, any other
Right.
website. But you can't expect me not to publish my own content,
Right.
So, so it's exclusive to you for that format, but you're not going to prevent me from publishing my own stuff. So I'm still going to publish it on my Instagram, my YouTube, my website, and then you get it for your audience as well. And you get to, we had agreed that we would publish simultaneously, but the logistics didn't quite work out that way.
Right.
But it still makes sense for them. So I haven't had anybody ask for me to not publish, that they want something just for them.
Right.
We probably could do something just for them.
Right.
I'd probably hire somebody to work on that for me,
Right.
and work that into the cost that I charge whoever it is that's asking for exclusive content. Because
Right.
I can't see myself taking on an additional thing right now if the money isn't there. It has to be where the money reside.
Nah, and I like that. I like that. So, folks, we're getting into the Q&A session, right? So what I want you guys to do is, if you guys have questions, you guys can drop it into the chat. If you guys want to call in and you want to ask a question to Kalilah directly, please, you guys can call in, right? The number is 868-737-4358. And you guys will be able to be live on the show asking the question, all right? And most importantly, you guys can call in via WhatsApp, or you can call in directly. So again, 868-737-4358. The phone lines are open, so you guys can call in now via WhatsApp, or you guys can call in direct. If you guys are a little bit shy and you don't want to call in, then definitely drop your questions into the chat, and we will get those things answered for you. So Kalilah, when it comes to, as we wait for some of the questions to come in, when we talk about creating content, you have those that would only create content if they are employed by a business. And then you have those people who do it for themselves. What are the pros and cons to building your own platforms and creating the content for your own brand?
Okay, so I started creating content for other media houses, of course, because I was employed there. But, and I had pitched the idea for taking stock to my company, and I don't know if they didn't see the value or they couldn't find the time, or I don't know what it is, but it was rejected. I pitched it to other media houses. Nobody was really taking me on with it, right?
Right,
So, and I kept seeing the demand for the information. I'm like, can't these people see that this is a gold mine? The
right,
audience is there who just wants to eat up this content. And then the advertisers are there who are willing to pay to support this content. This is obviously a win. And so I decided, well, let me just try a thing on YouTube and see how it goes. And fortunately, it worked out. But you do have to have that internal drive. So my first reason for doing it wasn't necessarily to make money, it was to serve a need. I saw that people needed information. I actually started doing the show for myself because
right,
I wanted the information. I wanted to know, asking for myself, right?
right.
I wanted the information for myself. This was the type of show that I wanted to see. So I was very internally motivated to do the show. And then you build from there, you make the connections, and the money will come from there as long as you have a decent business sense and you're able to do that. I see you have some questions coming in.
Yes. So first up, Narissa, is your team full-time or do you outsource primarily?
So right now, Narissa, we have 3 full-time staff, 3 part-time, and we have about 6 freelancers.
It's a
So
whole
it's a
squad?
combination. Yeah, the writing team is all freelance. Writing and research team, that same team that I said started hiring after I had my son.
Right,
Most of them are still with me. We've
right,
added, subtracted over the past 18 months or so, but they're still there and they're freelance. And the benefit of having that freelance team is that you get to have all of these ideas from different people. So I don't have a monopoly on ideas. I don't
right.
have to stress myself trying to think of content because we put out so much stuff, and then as a creator, Carol, and you're trying to think, okay, what the hell am I going to talk about next week on my show? I have the show to do. I don't know what to talk about. It's
Correct.
really great having a team of freelancers, and we meet about once a month, and they all pitch their ideas so that I don't have to think about all the content or come up with all the ideas myself. But
I
then
love
what I
it.
realized from um, when I left Nationwide to do this full time, before that, everybody was part time, right? So if somebody was sending me a draft at 10 p.m.,
Right,
I'm up at 10 p.m. to review it because I'm doing this part time in my free time.
right.
But when I left in October to work full time, and I was the only full timer, and I'm getting stuff at 10 p.m. I'm like, no, I want to
That
sleep at
can't
10
work.
p.m.
Correct.
I want you to send me the draft at 10 a.m.
Right,
so that because that's when I'm working.
right,
But then they're working at their full-time job. So I realized, okay, I need to start hiring some full-time staff. So I now have the core full-time team, which is
right.
myself, one full-time producer and a full-time video editor. And the others are the videographer is part-time. And who else I have part-time? A couple part-timers, and then the rest work freelance.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And again, if you guys want to call in and ask your question live, the number is 868-737-4358. You guys can call in on WhatsApp or you guys can call in directly. So, we want to hear some voices. So definitely somebody call in. Until then, we will get to the questions in the chat. So, Kalilah, Shedron is asking, let's bring that back up. With the various revenue streams, how do you decide between those that bring in income versus those that you love to do, especially when they differ?
They don't differ. That's the thing. They all complement each other. So advertising and sponsorships is let's take taking stock for example. So taking stock makes money through advertising and sponsorship. So that's one income stream. And then what else I said? The same content from taking stock is then sold to Observer Cool 95 FM, Cool 97 FM as content share through a content sharing agreement. So there's no clash there. And
Mm,
then if I want to do a book, then some of this I'm going to use, I am using a lot of the same content that I've put together in Money Mondays JA, packaging those into a book. So again, there's no clash. It's repurposing a lot of the same content to find different ways to make money off the same thing. So you're working smarter, not harder.
and that was the video of that you last posted, working smarter.
Yeah, yeah. So and then you also make money off the YouTube views. So it's the same content that's bringing you money in different ways. There's
That is,
no clash.
that
I'd
is
love to know what example, if that person had a specific example in mind, why he asked that question.
and that's one of our guys that works with our youth and business Trinidad and Tobago. So I know he's asking for a specific reason. So I hope he's still here to follow up. Moses says, "I love this interview and presentation. Very informative. My question to Kalilah is, if you had the opportunity to start at the beginning, what are the three things you would do differently?"
Uh, hmm. Okay. I don't know that there's three things that I can think of immediately, but there is certainly one thing. When I had the idea for taking stock, I already had Money Mondays and I already had Money Moves. I already had two social media programs going.
Right.
And then I have this idea to taking stock. And Chris Williams from Proven was my very first sponsor on Money Mondays. I told him about this idea that I have, and he's like, why are you doing another thing? Like,
Right.
build Money Mondays first. Build it, grow it, get a million followers, and then you can make a whole heap of money on that. Once you perfected it, then launch another product.
Right.
And I was like, no. The demand is there now. People want it now. And I've
Right.
always been once I have an idea in my head, like I need to
You're
act on
gone.
it
Right.
immediately, or else you lose the enthusiasm for it and you're never gonna do it.
Right.
And I did see the opportunity, and that was very important, and I did pursue it. But in hindsight, I'm starting to think maybe he had a point. Maybe, maybe I still love taking stock. It's my baby, and it has caused the company to grow so fast.
Right.
I think a lot faster than it would have if I had focused only on the one show. But
Right.
maybe he had a
Maybe.
point. Maybe I could have focused on just the one show, built that and grown that before moving on to something else. Because then I did have these three shows, then launch the website, then you do the podcast, and you realize it's really difficult to do all these different things and give them all your attention. So even for social media, I'm on all these different platforms, but I cannot focus, I can't spread my love thin to
Right.
promote all the platforms. So I focus primarily on two, which is Instagram and YouTube.
Right.
But I still try to do LinkedIn at least once a week. I've been
Right.
slacking on it. We recently started TikTok, but the beauty of it too is that you can repurpose content. So the videos I do for TikTok, and I just post them on IG, post them on
Right.
YouTube stories. So
Right.
so repurposing content is really a
It's
cool
a real
hack that
thing.
you don't have to be doing multiple things for multiple platforms.
Yeah.
Just that you still need to figure out how to kind of fine tune it, because you need to use different hashtags for TikTok than you would use on IG, for example.
Correct. And then every platform has a completely different strategy and a different purpose with a different type of audience. And then depending on what medium you're using, being searchable, having your content found without having to constantly show up is a real thing. So like when you have your website, remember your website is found by the search engines. Podcasts have their own search engines with them to be discoverable. With social media, you have to be constantly posting in order to be found, because the shelf life on social media is a heck of a lot less. You're not getting an evergreen reach. So when you're on all of these platforms, you have to keep in mind that even when you are repurposing, every platform has a purpose. Understand how each of these platforms work so that you can get the most reach for the content that you are distributing on these platforms. The big boss, the tech boss out of Jamaica says, create once, distribute everywhere. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these last two questions and then wrap up because Kalilah has a very busy day ahead of her. All right. Narissa says, who, not how. Who can you get to run with your idea? Caribbeanpreneurs need to focus. We split our attention and resources, and then they can't thrive. All right. That's a state. And then Sulan says, hi, I'm in the beauty industry, but not many things are presented for help, especially locally. I'm a makeup artist and I can also do hair. Currently building out my skincare line. How would you build this niche?
Focus on which one you want to do first. So which one? So you're doing three different things: makeup, hair, skincare. Those are three different things. Which one do you really want the attention? So if you're building your skincare line, then that's a product that you want to sell, right? It's different from a makeup product. So, how would I build this niche? That's actually not a difficult niche to build. Women are naturally interested in beauty, right? Just put out good content. Like if you're developing a skincare line, I hope you have good skin because you are your number one
Product.
seller.
Yeah,
People
correct.
people are gonna look at you first, and if you have good skin, they're gonna be like, oh, I want to have skin like hers. So
Yeah.
make sure that your skin, first of all, is glowing and popping and show it off all the time. I don't know if that's maybe a contradiction with you being a makeup artist, because I'm probably always showing your makeup and then we
Right.
don't necessarily get to see the skin. But if the skincare line is something that you really want to focus on, then perhaps you could be doing natural makeup tutorials and then really emphasizing the skin part of it first. So for my makeup artist, who I use all the time, she's always doing a million things to prep my skin before she actually applies the makeup. So maybe you could really emphasize that when you're doing your tutorials, and then find other like-minded people. So build your audience. Who are the target audience? Who are the people you want to buy your skincare products? And then also reach out to, for skincare line, if you're selling, you need to have distribution. So that's something that you need to figure out early. Where is this skincare? Where are these products going to be sold? Are they going to be at
Right.
pharmacies? Are you going to be selling them yourself online? You need to figure that out very early, because you can have the best product ever, but if people don't know how or where to buy them, then you have no income. You're sitting there with a bunch of product that you can't sell. So figure that out early. And then next thing you want to do is partner with other people in the industry. So if they're here in Jamaica, like the obvious one is like a Fontana pharmacy.
Right.
You definitely want to have distribution there. You'd want them to promote you on their channels, so you can, call them and volunteer to do an in-store session, and then you video that session, so you have their customers coming in, see you applying the products to other people, and then you're also using that opportunity to do an IG live. So it's going out to your audience. You can offer to have it streamed to their platform. So if they have 100,000 followers, it's going out to their audience as well. So there are tons of ways that you can, build out that niche. It's a really lucrative niche. Rihanna is now a billionaire, $1.7 billion. So I think that's not a very difficult one. The difficulty probably is in the competition, because there's a lot of people doing that. So you need to find out how to make yourself stand out in that crowd.
I love it. I love it. Kalilah, I want to say thank you for all of the gems, the bombs, everything you have dropped here today for the Digipreneur FM audience. Do you have any closing remarks for the upcoming digital entrepreneurs that are taken in the program today?
Of course. Let's get this money.
Boom, boom, boom.
can't do a whole show on those, say. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kalilah Ray. Subscribe to my newsletter, KalilahReynolds.com/newsletter. Check me out on all social media platforms, TikTok, IG, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the above. And let's link. Let's connect, yo.
And she's Googleable, folks. So if you need to figure out what platform to check her out, you could Google her. Definitely check out the KalilahReynolds.com platform, because all of her products, her services, her content, everything is featured there. And again, you guys that are tuning in are all business owners. When you guys are taking a look at the Kalilah Reynolds brand, look to see how she is building her brand. Look at how she is crafting each of these platforms. Look at the type of content that she is doing and take notes. You don't just want to be a consumer. You want to look at how each of these platforms are all working for her and see how you can take these notes and implement them into your own brand. Kalilah, thanks again for taking the time and jumping on the show. This was a long time coming. I excite.
Thanks for having me, Karen. Thanks, everybody.
No problem. So everybody, I hope that you enjoyed today's early session of Digipreneur FM with Kalilah Reynolds. She came, and like I said, it was bombs she dropped. The replays is going to be available immediately after on any of the platforms you guys are watching on. So if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, the replays are already there, so you guys can go back and watch the episode. And then this is also going to be posted to the Digipreneur FM podcast if you want to hear the audio, version of this podcast only. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Digipreneur FM podcast. It's your boy, Karen Rose. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Karen Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Karen Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.